financing in Nigerian politics, the money and everything. We know it's a huge deal, but we know they are very costly. And although the new Electoral Act places limit on campaign financing, it's hard to see how this limit will be enforced, particularly with blatant vote buying and everything is very, very rampant. How do you think this issue can be dealt with decisively? This issue of, the law has said there's a limit on this, but we still know politicians still find their way and political parties still find their way around this. So how do you think this issue can be solved decisively? And, let's just move on from it.
Yes, my personal take is, see, politicians don't want to regulate political finance reforms. They are the culprits. They don't want to. So all these attempts to say, oh, let's limit the influence of money, who are those who are going to make the laws? Is it not the same politicians who believe so much in money? Because some of them know that the only power that they have, it's the money. They are not popular within their community. And so they resort to doing what? Buying votes and spending a lot of money. Just look at the primaries. How many of those candidates, how many of them were voted out of the free will of members of their parties? A lot of them bought their nomination. They procured delegates. And so when you procure delegates to elect you, that's not election. You can't call that election. Quite frankly, I look forward to the post-election period. Let's have a discussion around political finance reforms. But I think it's important to make a distinction that first, if you want to run elections, you have to spend money. You will spend money because the conduct of election is a logistic operation. And when you have logistical operations, you're going to spend money. Because one, you're going to host meetings. You're going to give people refreshments. You're going to recruit agents who are going to keep watch over elections. You're going to train these people. You need money to train the people. You're going to move people around. You're going to run campaigns. Let's even say you're going to use technology. Won't you procure data? Won't you procure systems? Won't you procure applications and softwares? So the elections involve spending money. But I think where we have a problem is this obscene commercialization of the process, where everything is just determined by money, where candidate nomination process, where leadership selection process is based on the highest bidder and the highest spender, and not one who has the qualification, the competence and the character, to run for office. Or where you have this introduction of dirty money into our politics. That's where we need regulation. And so you look at the current Electoral Act and why I say politicians are not interested and they're just gaming the system. On one hand, the Act says INEC can impose limits of contributions. On one hand, it says, yes, for contribution to a party or a candidate, it should be 10 million naira or 50 million naira, and it must not exceed that. But in another provision somewhere in the law, it says you can donate more than 50 million as long as the party can show and demonstrate the source of the funding. But you also say on one hand, INEC has powers to impose limitations. So you give INEC power with the left and you take it, with the right, or with the right hand or with the left hand. So it's just this sort of inconsistency now, and it's deliberate. Politicians don't want limitation on spending. They don't want to do what? To limit the influence of money, because for them, it means retiring them out of politics, and they don't want to be retired. So I think that there are things that can be done. So 3 things. One, INEC has a power to audit political parties and even sanction political parties because it's the regulatory body. INEC is the regulatory body based on provisions of the Constitution as well as the Electoral Act. INEC is the auditor. It audits political party finances. How many political parties have been audited, and how many reports have been made public, and how many parties have been sanctioned? The second is parties need to rethink their revenue generation mechanism. And this is where things like membership, maintaining an accurate, updated, and authentic register of members is critical. Members of parties are not paying dues in parties because they don't see the value in paying dues. Because at the end of the day, political parties are owned by individuals who have the money to run the affairs of parties. Why is it not shameful that party leaders at the states are in the pockets of the governors? That is the governors that fund, the political party structure. Their salaries are paid by the governor. And that's really unacceptable. So when the time of primaries actually come, the governor already has all the entire structure of the party under his control. How do you expect internal democracy to flourish in those political parties? So parties need to think about ways of generating income. And I say this, that yes, one of the parties says it has over 40 million members. Imagine if those 40 million members pay 1,000 naira as annual dues. Think about the amount of money that will be raised. You don't need to be charging nomination forms as 50 million, 100 million naira, So again, these are some of the things that we need to consider in the post-election period. Yeah.